Okay, so Saturday the 13th. This month's going really quickly. It's quite a cold morning this morning, frosty in places. And earlier on, a couple of hours ago when I got up, thanks to a dog and a cat running all over me, pushing against me and wanting to be sorted out, bless them. It's quite frosty out. All the cars were white. You can still see it on some of the roofs. So, got the DJI Osmo Action 4 out this morning. I've got my Pocket 3 at home, but I'm going to probably set my Pocket 3 up a little bit more as a studio camera, even though I will be using it outdoors. I think the action cams are better for doing this sort of thing, but you know, one of the things I was thinking about yesterday was, what do I aim to achieve with this vlog, this daily vlog? No, I don't suppose really I'm after being some influential YouTube creator. You know, I don't get around to enough places and out enough really for that. You know, and trying to provide different content every day. You know, I can't dance. I don't wear makeup. I don't do my hair in different ways. So, you know, I haven't got a car where I could travel places to do a vlog all the time. And it's not a bad thing. So, you know, to be some sort of YouTube creator which gets thousands of likes and thousands of views, I'm not putting limits on myself, but I'm just being realistic. It's a bit unrealistic to, you know, aim for that sort of thing, I think. Although, I don't know. You know, as I go on in life, I might find myself with some subject. I'm thinking I might do subject on wellness and well-being. You know, I know I've certainly suffered in the past with mental health issues. You know, PTSD, to really bad depression, grief, so on and so forth. So I might start vlogging about them, talking about them. You know, I'm not saying I'm any sort of a doctor or psychologist, even though I've studied psychology. I've got a few basic qualifications, the same in counselling and, you know, mental health at first aid at work and stuff like that. You know, I've also studied things like hypnosis and everything else. Some things work really well, other things don't. So I may actually start looking at doing something like that, but keeping it more basic. You know, in a lot of cases, I don't think, especially blokes, don't like to talk about mental health issues. It's a bit, still got that taboo feeling about it. And no, it's not right. Still got that stigma about it, that as a man you shouldn't suffer with these things. And for me to say that's wrong, you know, we should all talk about it. I've got to a stage where I don't mind talking about it. But when people sort of still feel it's taboo, you can't change a person's mind. You know, and if they feel it's taboo, then, you know, to them it's taboo. That's how they feel. Come on. No, that's how they feel. So, you know, you can't expect other people, you know, to follow suit. Come on. And, you know, simply say, oh, well, because, you know, it's thought to be taboo, but Steve said it's not taboo, so it can't be. You know, people just simply don't prescribe as easy as that. But, you know, if we can, in their own personal time, the private time, you know, if you watch some videos of what I'm going to plan to do coming up, you know, and they watch them and they try some of the things that I try, you know, even if it helps just one person, then it's worth it. But so what I will do is I'll be creating a separate playlist about it. I might call it In My Mind or In My Head or something. Again, let me know what you think. Well, you know, I was thinking about it yesterday. I thought, you know, it's only right I sort of explain a bit more about why I do this vlogging. Well, I think for me, it's really there to leave something for my grandkids. So in years to come, when they've probably got their own kids, they can look back on this and see the videos. I mean, whenever I create a video, yes, upload to YouTube, but, you know, things change with that. I also download to a external hard disk drive. So it's there forever and a day. You know, I can only just about remember my granddad. I think he passed away when I was about 4 and a half. And I've got a couple of pictures knocking around somewhere of him. But not many. And you know, in this day and age, we've now got the technology. You know, most people have got a phone, if nothing else, where they can just record stuff. And I think it's great that we can, you know, also do videos about who we are, what we were, how we lived, and everything else. You know, so later on in life, our grandchildren, their children, maybe even their children's children can say, oh, this was Grandad. You know, I mean, the world's certainly changed, and it's changing faster and faster every day. Come on, Peggy, go on. You know, it's changing faster and faster every day. You know, it's completely different now from when I was a kid. You know, you look at Christmas now, and you know, it's a totally different thing to what it was when I was a kid. It was very magical when I was a kid. It was very exciting when I was a kid, you know. Unless you're an emergency service worker, you know, Christmas, everybody finished work. You know, Christmas holidays, which was a good couple of weeks. You know, nowadays it's all commercialised, and you know, a lot of people find themselves, they're probably working extra hours over Christmas. You know, they don't really get any break at all. You know, they finish probably late Christmas Eve. They're back in early Boxing Day, because the companies need to make profit. And that's all we're interested in. And well, it's alright to have those spreadsheets looking a bit healthier. You know, the downside is, you know, the employees get no time off, the employees get no time off. They get no rest, they get no chance to be with the family. And Christmas Day is usually a bit of a hectic day for a lot of families. You know, they've got to sort out all the kids, sort out Christmas dinner, play with the kids with the toys. You know, so that one day off they get, you know, soon goes. And that's the way we live these days. It's all go, 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 go. You know, like I said, when I was a kid, you know, it used to be quite a bit of time off. All the shops were shut. There's hardly any cars on the motorway. Trains weren't running. It was a very different world. The things meant different. And like I said, we're in a very rapidly changing world at the moment. You know, how people are thinking, what people are doing has changed a lot across all walks of life. You know, I won't say I worry, but in all honesty, I'm glad I was born when I was born, and I could still experience those years. God. And that time, you know, the 1970s, early 80s, to know what it was like. You know, it was a very different world compared to today, where you feel like you can't say anything without offending somebody and other stuff. You know, I don't really want to be in that sort of world as it's going forward. You know, I've got no interest in that. But like I say, you know, go on. It's changed a lot since I was a kid. And I think, you know, it's a good one. I think it's important to make those changes, know those changes, you know, and for our kids, go on, Pagan, to understand how we lived, what we did. So really, you know, I do this so the kids have got something to look back on, my grandchildren, and say, God, it was like that in Grandad's time. Wow, you know. Good one, Pagan, good boy. You know, I'm not saying it's dead interesting or anything else, but just to look back. You know, what were my passions? What was my likes? What was my dislikes? What was the world like then? And I have a feeling it's going to be very, very different for them. in the future. Come here, it's a good boy. Right, mate. Come on, good boy. You know, since you know, I was born in 1968. You know, and as a child through the 70s into the early 80s, you know, mobile phones weren't a thing then. You know, it hadn't even been invented. And you know, now today they've come along, we simply can't live without them. And it's a fact. You know, and I hear kids today say, "Oh, how did you do that? How did you get on without a mobile phone? How did you get on without this? How did you get on without that?" You know, I wish I'd had a video camera going back to my childhood, where, you know, I could have shared that with my kids today. You know, I could have shown them what it was like, so on and so forth. You know, because life is just so different. But we are where we are. So that's the real reason why I do my vlogging. You know, like I say, it's not there to get massive, go viral or whatever else. I do it for kids' sake, and you know, I can share it. Like I say, I think I'm going to start including, you know, a few well-being videos. You know, and if they help somebody, just anybody, even if it's just one person, then it's got to be worth it. Good boy, go on. You know, it has to be worth it. You know, if we spread a bit of love, bit of peace out there, then I can't see any problems, and you know, I'm hoping people will watch those. So I'm going to cut the video off now. I just want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a little